Much of our work is by necessity conducted out of the public eye. We do that to protect the constitutional rights of all Americans and to protect the integrity of our investigations. Federal law, long-standing department rules, and our ethical obligations prevent me from providing further details as to the basis of the search at this time. There are, however, certain points I want you to know. First, I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. Second, the department does not take such a decision lightly. Where possible, it is standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search and to narrowly scope any search that is undertaken. Third, let me address recent unfounded attacks on the professionalism of the FBI and Justice Department agents and prosecutors. I will not stand by silently when their integrity is unfairly attacked. The men and women of the FBI and the Justice Department are dedicated, patriotic public servants. Every day, they protect the American people from violent crime, terrorism, and other threats to their safety while safeguarding our civil rights. They do so at great personal sacrifice and risk to themselves. I am honored to work alongside them. This is all I can say right now. More information will be made available in the appropriate way and at the appropriate time. Thank you.
All right, that's the Attorney General Merrick Garland at the Department of Justice.
Thank you all for your questions, but as I said, this is all I can say at this time.
We expected that that would be his answer to any questions following his news conference here moments ago, where he did not take questions, but again made significant news here as you were watching our live coverage. The Attorney General Merrick Garland saying, let me make clear, the Department of Justice will speak through court filings and its work, which is what he said when he took this post. He said just now the Justice Department has filed a motion in the Southern District of Florida to unseal that search warrant and property receipt relating to a court-approved search that the FBI conducted earlier this week. So again, the Attorney General working to unseal the warrant that allowed FBI agents to search the former president's home in Mar-a-Lago in Florida. That would, of course, reveal a lot more information to the American public and to those who've been calling for more details into this highly unprecedented move by the Attorney General. He said in sticking to what he declared from the very beginning as AG, that they would not talk except through their work, their court filings. He pointed out before offering this information today that it was the former president himself, Donald Trump, who talked about this search, not the Department of Justice, the day of the search. He said it was the former president's right to do so. He went out of his way, Merrick Garland did, to say we made no public comments on the day of the search. He also reminded the audience something that we have been reporting here at ABC News, that a warrant was given to the former president's legal team, that probable cause was shown in court before that magistrate, before this search played out. That they were given a property receipt. This is something else that we have reported on here that would list the items taken from the property. So again, the former president has this information, could share it with the public, knowing that there are so many questions out there, particularly from Republicans and from supporters of the former presidents, though we knew that that was unlikely to happen from the former president. I want to bring in our chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl. John, the Attorney General, very quiet by nature and by precedent with the Justice Department. It took a lot for him to come forward today, but this motion has been filed, and this is significant to unseal the warrant.
He was under intense pressure to say something about this, given the highly unusual situation we are in of a former president being apparently the subject of a criminal investigation, or at the very least the subject of a search warrant. We had said, David, you and I had talked from the very beginning that Donald Trump had a copy of this warrant, also had a copy of this itemized list of items that were taken. His lawyer initially acknowledged that. It's interesting, though, that his son, Eric Trump, who's been speaking on his behalf for some of this, actually denied that he was given that. So I think this goes to show that we have to be very careful in questioning the reliability of the information that is coming from the Trump camp. That was a case where something was was flatly wrong. The president's son said something that was just not true. We will see this warrant. It will have some very basic information about what they were looking for and the reasons for it. And then, of course, the list of documents that were taken. Two notes on this, though. One, as you and I discussed yesterday, there is a third filing, which is a sworn affidavit that was given to the judge to explain the reasons why there would be probable cause that evidence of a crime or crimes would be uncovered with a search of this premises. That document will remain sealed. Merrick Garland made no mention of unsealing that document. The second point is about the invoice, about the list of items that were taken. I would not expect this to be overly detailed when you consider that this is classified. This is about classified information. This investigation is about classified information that was allegedly improperly removed from the White House. Obviously, the nature of classified information is they're not going to be able to give us much in the way of detailed information about what exactly it is. But this is a significant move by the Attorney General that really underscores the extraordinary circumstances. He said it himself that this, given the incredibly high stakes, substantial public interest in this matter. That's an understatement. Substantial public interest in this matter. That there are not just Republicans, but across the country, including some very prominent Trump critics, thought it was important for the Department of Justice to come out and explain, at least in some basic way, why they did what they did.
John Carl with us here on the Breaking News. John, our thanks to you. The Attorney General Merrick Garland moments ago revealing to the American people that they have moved to unseal the search warrant that led to the search at the former president's home in Mar-a-Lago. He made a point, Merrick Garland did again, that the former president has in hand the search warrant, or his legal team certainly. The former president has seen it by now. In addition to that, a list, a property receipt, if you will, a list of the things, and as John Carl points out, probably in limited detail, but certainly a list of the things taken from Mar-a-Lago. That's a significant amount of information the former president has in hand and has had that now for several days, could offer that to the American people if they wanted, amid these questions about what, in fact, the DOJ, the FBI was looking for there. Something else that we heard from the Attorney General, he said just moments ago, I personally approved this search. He took responsibility. He said, I don't take this lightly, these kinds of searches. We would certainly try to get answers or material, property that they're in search of through other means, if possible, before taking this certainly dramatic and highly unprecedented step to search a former president's home. I want to bring in our senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, with us on the phone here. You've covered Merrick Garland. You've interviewed Merrick Garland under significant pressure to say something today. But he made a point that this motion has been filed, again, talking about something that's happening through the court system, which is what he said he would only speak to all along here.
David, this is a highly unusual situation. Clear that the Attorney General wanted to address this head on. And to me, having covered him, the most important thing he said was that normally in a situation like this, they would use less aggressive methods than they used on Monday. So he made it clear that they had a significant and perhaps profound reason to conduct the search in the way that they did. The other thing that he wanted to go out of his way to clearly indicate is that he's very concerned about these threats and these accusations against the FBI. But clearly, this situation, David, is one in which these documents, the Justice Department does not believe that they have all the documents that they wanted, that they requested, and they're held bound on getting them.
You make a valid point there, Pierre. Pierre, thank you. I want to bring in our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams, to pick up on that. Dan, you heard Pierre make the point, and Merrick Garland said this, the Attorney General, that this is sort of a last case resort here to actually search a former president's home, that they would have taken other methods, other routes to get the information, get the answers they were looking for. This was a significant point that he wanted to make and ups the stakes, certainly, with at least what has yet to be reported out, but what was going on between the former president and the Justice Department in the weeks and months leading up to what we saw at Mar-a-Lago this week.
And I think one of the most important points here is something that ABC News is reporting today in connection with that, which is that there was a subpoena issued for documents there. We don't know exactly what documents. We don't know exactly what happens. But that's a critical step here because a lot of questions were being asked. Why this level? Why do you need to have the FBI going into his home with a criminal search warrant? Why not use less intrusive means? Why not subpoena documents? Well, now we know that documents were subpoenaed. And that leads you to believe that there likely was a dispute after that point about certain documents that maybe were not turned over, et cetera. We'll have to see. But I will caution everyone that I think that when this search warrant is released, it will still be somewhat unsatisfying in the sense that, yes, we may know the crimes that they were investigating. And I think that'll be the single most important thing in the search warrant is look for which crimes they're investigating. Number one issue. Beyond that, what documents they took are going to be pretty broad and vague, is my guess, in terms of looking at the receipt of the documents. The other kind of information that will be in the search warrant, we'll talk about the address and what sorts of stuff they're allowed to take from the home. But beyond the crimes that are being investigated, the warrant itself will likely have a limited amount of information. And so I do think that even if and when this warrant is unsealed, there are still going to be a lot of questions to be answered.
Kind of you to prepare us for that. A lot of reporting in the weeks and months to come, certainly on this. But Dan, just to underscore what you said there, the idea that Catherine Falders Johnson, two-tier team reporting earlier today from ABC News that there had been a subpoena several months ago, which leaves the window here of opportunity for the former president to hand over what the Department of Justice was looking for, that this search that we saw at Mar-a-Lago obviously didn't have to happen, Dan.
A subpoena is a requirement. It doesn't leave you the option of not delivering the documents. And if they had information that despite a subpoena, and the subpoena didn't come out of nowhere either, right? The subpoena comes after there's already questions about, well, why were these documents at Mar-a-Lago? Okay, now we have to go through and figure out, do we have everything? Then they issue a subpoena, apparently saying, we need additional documents that you haven't turned over. It would sure seem that they didn't still get those documents that they needed, that they wanted, that they believed belonged to the government, et cetera, and that is why they went in. But that's the sort of detail that we aren't going to quite get from just the search warrant being unsealed.
And real quick, Dan, a lot of people, and these are appropriate questions, are asking all of this over documents, but we still simply do not know the level of what we're talking about here. We know this involved classified documents, but again, those are questions that are very difficult to answer this early on.
Absolutely. But I do think that it elevates it when you have a subpoena, meaning the initial concern was you have the FBI going into Donald Trump's home to just retrieve some documents? Couldn't they have figured this out in some other way? And now you have to ask the question, A, how important were the documents? That remains something, as you point out, we don't know. But if they are very important, very top secret, very classified documents, and they had specifically requested documents like this, and for whatever reason they weren't being turned over, now the situation all becomes elevated. Now you're not just talking about, well, this is a record-keeping issue. Now you're talking about a potential issue of hiding documents. And then the question becomes, what's in the documents and why are they being hidden? But again, we don't know that yet. But those are the sorts of questions that I'm asking in my head.
And we'll continue to ask, and we certainly never want to get ahead of ourselves here. Dan Abrams, our thanks to you as always. We'll see you a little later on the newscast. And in the meantime, I want to bring in our investigative reporter, Aaron Katersky, on one other note that we're following today. And this came out of Ohio. Certainly, we don't know if there's any link to what we witnessed at Mar-a-Lago earlier this week, but there is heightened concern, and you heard it from the Attorney General there moments ago, Aaron, saying any kind of attacks, verbal or otherwise, on the FBI, the DOJ, on prosecutors will not be tolerated. And there's this unfolding investigation, this situation in Ohio today, where authorities say it would appear someone tried to cause a lot of problems, and that's to put it lightly, with the FBI office in Cincinnati.
A man armed with a nail gun and an AR-15 is alleged to have attacked the FBI office in Cincinnati and then led the authorities on a chase along Interstate 71, firing shots from his Ford Crown Victoria before heading off the interstate, firing more shots, exchanging fire with law enforcement. There is now an armed standoff in a cornfield near Wilmington, Ohio. It's believed to be contained there, but this standoff is ongoing. It's not clear what his motivation was, David, but one of the reasons that Merrick Garland decided to break from his long-standing tradition of not talking about ongoing investigations unless and until there are criminal charges is because of what he called these unfair attacks on the FBI, David.
Of course, again, as you point out, the motive not known, but it comes, of course, just days after the country witnessed that play out at Mar-a-Lago. Aaron Katersky, our thanks to you. And again, the big headline here, Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, telling the American people moments ago the Justice Department has filed a motion now in the Southern District of Florida to unseal that search warrant that led to the search at Mar-a-Lago, which would provide the American people with a lot more information about that highly unprecedented search. Our coverage will continue on ABC News Live, abcnews.com, and as I mentioned there, I'll be back with the entire team a little later today for World News Tonight. I'm David Muir in New York. Until then, good day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
Dr. Robinson.
Officer Cabrera, I need to have a word with Dr. Robinson and Mr. Ashford. I'll be right back.
Commissioner, did we do something wrong?
Not that I'm aware of.